All right, guys. Hopefully, you got some good stuff written down there. And if you want to share some of your gratitudes or intentions on the chat box, would be awesome. In fact, I would say that part of that, what I was talking about in terms of getting to where you actually can see it in your mind, those intentions taking place, which is what Napoleon Hill was talking about, is essentially it is being able to get those things so clearly imprinted in what you want to accomplish in your head that it actually just makes it take place. So if you want to throw in there, like, don't be afraid to put your intentions in there. That's part of getting that out to the universe, of letting you, the universe, know this is what I am going to accomplish. So I'd love to see either some gratitudes or some intentions thrown in there. All right. Well, here's what I want to talk about with you guys today, just briefly, is that I've been thinking a lot about, and I don't know how many of you watched the Tony Robbins New World, New You that he did. I guess it was the end of the week before last, so I guess coming up on 2 weeks. Well, it probably has been 2 weeks now, or maybe it's only a week. I don't know. Anyway, within the last week or two, one of the things that Tony Robbins said that just has stuck out to me for the last however long it has been, week or 2 weeks, however long it's been, is he said this: the strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. So I'm going to say that again so that you can get it if you're wanting to write it down. The strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. So John talked earlier this week about people's, and in fact, even the daily message today that came out was about how people's resolutions are dropping like flies. That people, we set resolutions at the start of January, and then typically about February is when people stop doing those New Year's resolutions that they had put in place. Well, I want to talk today a little bit about that and why that happens and what creates it. And this actually ties into what I was saying of why you have got to create in your mind what it is that you want to have happen. And in fact, if you stop and think about it, every invention that has ever been made. So we're using Zoom. I'm using a MacBook Pro to broadcast this, these AirPods. Every one of these things was created in somebody's brain first, in their mind, before they created it physically. So for all of us, in order for you to get where you want to go and to accomplish what you want to do, you first have to create it up here, but you have to create it in a way that you will then believe it. And something that, another piece of what Tony Robbins said is he talked about that. So I'm going to say it one more time. The strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. So, and then he quoted actually this, and I'll tell you who said it afterwards. But if you tell a lie long enough and loud enough to ourselves, we will believe it. And it was Hitler that actually said that. If you tell people a lie long enough and loud enough they'll actually believe it. Well, here's the thing. The same actually applies for us, though, is meaning if we say the good things. So turn it from not the negative, that what Hitler used it for, but from the positive. Even though, at least I know for me, guys, as I go through and do those morning affirmations, remember I said just a little bit ago, when you do it, make sure you're standing up, having some energy behind it. But as I do that, there are some pieces of it that I get to that when I say one of those affirmations, just inside I can feel just like, oh, I know that's not true, that I'm not doing it. But if you will create it in your mind and actually believe that it's going to take place, you can get that then to take place. Well, so here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about and show you why this is. Why is it so difficult for us to make a change? And why is it so difficult for us to be able to have a New Year's resolution or to say, here's what I want to accomplish, and then we struggle in going out and doing it? So I got to use my whiteboard on here, though, which is not working. So that's not going to work real well for me. All right, hang on. Sorry, I got to go. I got to make my iPad. I got to make myself a co-host here. So I apologize. Give me 1 second. All right, now it's going to work. All right, so here's what happens is think of it this way is what I'm going to help you to understand is a little bit of why it is so difficult for us to change. And it's tied to what I just had mentioned to you about the strongest force that we have is the need to stay consistent. Is our brain wants to stay consistent. Well, so here's what happens is this. Think of it this way is when you were born, you had who you were. So think of it as this point right here as being who I am, okay? And who I am then created over here what I deserve. So who you were created what you deserve. So as a baby, and stop and think about it for all of us, when you look at a baby, a newly born baby, at least I know for me, and I'm assuming it's the same for you guys as well. When you stop and look at that, you just look at it as just so pure and perfect, and that just there's nothing more beautiful, I guess I would say, than that, right? So as a result of that, they deserve to be taken care of. So think of it this way is what happened is when you were born, when you were birthed, for lack of a better way, I guess I'm saying, I don't know, when you were born, who you were was okay. So who you were was okay. And because of that, what you deserved was to be taken care of. So as a baby, when you were hungry, you got fed. When you needed your diaper changed, they would change your diaper. You could just cry, and then your parents would know, okay, they're either hungry or they need their diaper changed or they're upset about something. Think of it, what happened is they would come and comfort you, right? Well, so somewhere along the way, what happened though is this. Somewhere along the way, who I am turned into who I think I am. Now remember, who you were was okay, but somewhere along the way, what happens is at the birth of the personality. I remember there used to be a commercial on here in Utah that was called Success by Six. Well, and the idea of that commercial was tied around to this is somewhere around the age of 6 is where the birth of the personality kind of comes into place. Well, as a result of that, who I am turns into who I think I am. Now, remember, who you think you are, where that comes from is, and I'm going to tell you from my own life where this happened is I remember at one point in school, I was in art class, and I remember we were drawing a picture, and I had taken it up and shown the teacher, and I don't specifically remember what she said, but she told me that I needed to change some things or whatever. So I went back and I redrew it and I showed it to the teacher again, and she was like, "Well, go fix this and fix that." I went back and did it again, and I took it up and I told the teacher, I said, "Well, I'm just struggling with getting this to doing it right." And the teacher said, "Well, maybe you're just not good at art." Well, what happened is I remember still right now, I can still remember the teacher saying that. I made that decision right then. Well, I'm just not good at art. I don't have good handwriting. Well, so you will hear me a lot of times, and I caught myself from saying it today, but I usually will start by saying, "Well, I apologize for my handwriting as I'm about to write this." And it is because who I think I am in terms of that is that I don't have good handwriting. Well, as a result of us changing who we are from being okay to who we think we are, which is not okay. See, essentially that's what happened is I made a decision, well, I'm just not good at art. I'm not good with writing. I'm not good. Actually, the decision that I made, I'm not good at doing things with my hands. So when it comes to doing art projects or fix up things around the house, I have this belief I'm just not good at doing things with my hands. Well, so what happens then is when we go from being who we are was okay down here to who I think I am, which is now not okay, what I deserved on this other side turns into what I don't deserve. See, what you deserved was to have people take care of you and to get your diaper changed and to be fed and all those things. But then somewhere along the way, that changed from who I am being okay to who I think I am, which is not okay, which means that what I once deserved, I no longer deserve anymore. Well, so here's what happens now. With that as kind of a background, let me show you what takes place. Whenever we decide we want to make a change, we are going to do something that looks like this. And we start to tell ourselves. So as we start to do these affirmations, what happens is we're telling ourselves over and over and over again, you know, that I'm prosperous. I think prosperous thoughts. I work my SOI, all those kinds of things. What happens is that we send information. Oops, I apologize. I drew this backwards. Got to fix that. What happens is this, is we start to send this information down into the subconscious of basically saying, I'm going to change. So think of whatever New Year's resolutions or whatever goals you've been working towards that you are struggling with. And here's what happens is this, is we start to send this information, we start to send the information down there of saying, and let's use going on a diet, okay? I'm going to lose a few pounds, which, by the way, the words that we use make a huge impact. If you are saying to yourself, I am going to lose weight, let me ask you this question. What happens when you lose your wallet? If you lose some money, what do you have to do? Yeah, you got to go find it. Well, guess what happens when you lose weight? We want to go find it. And Rick said, even find more. So what ends up happening is we want to then go find it. So change the language that you're using around it. But as we do that and we send this information down into the unconscious, what happens is, remember, we have a need to stay consistent. The strongest thing in a personality is the need to stay consistent. Well, what happens then is your unconscious starts to fight back against you, which is what this is saying, if you do that, if you make these changes that we're talking about, you're not going to be who we think we are anymore. And remember, your personality, your brain wants to stay consistent. So every time that we start to move from this side of things over this way, as we start to go that way, what is going to happen is the need to stay consistent then fights back, fights against it. So as you're pushing down, trying to make these changes, this need to change fights back against it, starts to push back against it. And ultimately what it's saying is, if you do that, what is going to happen is that it is going to create you to be someone different. Now, this is a bit laborious of a project of what I'm talking about, but here's what happens is we have to have either the discipline put in place to make it happen, meaning this is why it is so crucial every day as we sit down and we write out these intentions. You have got to be writing them out with the belief that it's going to happen. And when you feel that, just like I was saying earlier about how when I'm saying some of those morning affirmations, some of them I just almost cringe when I say it, because I know as I say it that I'm not actually doing it. So for instance, that I drink water daily. I have been drinking way too much Diet Coke. And so as a result, every day when we do that and I say I drink water daily, do I? Yeah, I drink water daily, but not as much as I should be. And so every time I say it, I can feel, as I'm saying it, I know it's not true. Well, what has to happen then is I have to create the scenario of saying, okay, I'm going to do it. So here's what yesterday, actually, I made the decision yesterday. I was going to drink zero anything but water. So I drank only water all day yesterday. Well, so part of that is if you are struggling with it, we talk about in our foundation about discipline and accountability. If you are struggling to make these changes that we're talking about right here, and what you're finding is that as you start to do something different, to make a change in who you are, and you find the resistance coming back, because that's what it is it's resistance. And we've got to push back against that resistance. Well, the way that you best can do that is get someone to hold you accountable. If you are struggling on getting yourself to get on the phone and to start prospecting, then you have got to get someone to hold you accountable to go and do that. Get somebody that you just say, hey, look, every day I'm going to show up at this time, be there with me. That's why going to the gym is so crucial to getting somebody to go with you. Until you can get yourself into the habit of doing it all on your own, you need someone there that is going to push you and hold you accountable to doing what it is that you say you want. See, we can make all these changes. We can attract this. You know, that movie, the Secret, which is all about the law of attraction, which is great. You got to stop and think about those things, but then you got to go and actually do something to make it change. See, if you continue to do what you've always done, you will continue to get what you've always gotten. So my message for you today is this: fight back against that strongest force in the human personality, which is to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. Change how you are going to define yourselves. And if you will change the way you define yourself, it will change the choices you make, and it'll change your life. All right, so here's my question for you. What are you going to do differently today? What are you going to implement? What do you need to do to make that change, to fight back against that urge to stop doing what you know you need to do? How can you make that change? And here's the thing: if you will do that, I promise you, you'll see the results change as well. All right. Hopefully this has been beneficial. Thank you for being with me today. I really appreciate you taking the time and jumping on, and go out and make it an awesome day. But let's close it up now with our closing affirmations. So let me get them pulled up here.